بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، وبعد. قال الشيخ المنقح علاء الدين المرداوي الحنبلي تغمده الله برحمته وأسكنه فسيح جنته ونفعنا به وبعلومه وعلوم مشايخنا في الدارين آمين. قوله ويتفاوت المعلوم عند أحمد والمحققين، قوله يعني his statement, the statement of الماتن himself, in other words, يعني he is explaining his statement. when he said ويتفاوت المعلوم عند أحمد والمحققين in the متن, yes, منهم الشيخ تقي الدين والأرموي والخونجي وابن مفلح وغيرهم. يتفاوت المعلوم عند أحمد means that المعلوم, in other words العلم, what is considered certain, the thing that is considered certain, this is not just one level, it's not just the 100%. So the 100% as the ultimate level of certainty and the only level of certainty, because 99% is not called certainty. This is the perspective of a logician, an Aristotelian logician. Yes, there is no tafawut, there is no difference between a certain thing and another certain thing, or a certain knowledge and a different certain knowledge. There is no difference when it comes to the level of certainty, because it's just one level of certainty. Al-dhann, on the other hand, different levels of al-dhann. And when we use these when these numbers or percentages, يعني 95% is different from 99%, different from 65%, different from 55%. Yes. We mentioned names who, طبعا the most important name is Ahmad bin Hanbal here, and they believe that التفاوت happens in certainties. So something can be certain and another thing can be more certain, if you will. قال ابن قاضي الجبل, one of our companions, as you know, هذه المسألة ذات خلاف. This is a controversial issue. وعن أحمد فيها روايتان, and that there are two narrations or two positions narrated from Ahmad. Al-Asahhu, the favored position or the relied upon position, At-Tafawut, that there are levels of certainty. Yes. فإنا نجد بالضرورة, we necessarily find الفرق بين كون الواحد نصف الاثنين وبين ما علمناه من جهة التواتر, the difference between one being the half of two and what we've known or what we've acquired from or because of التواتر, مع كون اليقين حاصلا فيهما, although certainty is something that happens in both of them. We are comparing logical certainty to the other type of certainty that we might call al-yaqeen al-adi, traditional certainty, not logical certainty. And you just flip the coin and you see the other side, logical impossibility and the traditional impossibility, أو الاستحالة العادية. Sometimes we call them يقين الفقهاء, we call it يقين الفقهاء, يقين المحدثين, not the logicians يقين, not the يقين or the certainty of philosophers. It is the يقين of الفقهاء. And in their heads all this area is an area of certainty, whether what you benefit from التواتر or what you benefit from a logical argument or a logical axiom like 1 is the half of 2. It's the same area of certainty, however, one is more certain than the other. 1 is the half of 2 is more certain than the position that the certainty that you benefit from a mutawatir report. This is really important. Differentiation is really important here. Because I was trained in Al-Azhar, I see the difference clearly and I express it in this manner. Yes? But if another person, a Hanbali person who was never trained in Al-Azhar al-Sharif, didn't receive these disciplines, logical disciplines, it might be a little bit confusing. This person might still understand what the Hanabila said in their literature. However, it is very important that you have a clear distinction and to understand the different perspectives of the different madhahib in this one. Yeah. طيب. So we established now this difference, and we have to remind ourselves of this very important principle or this very important condition that they mention in التواتر, the condition that tradition or al-'ada makes it impossible for them to lie. Yes, and we will come to this later inshallah. However, we have to remind ourselves of this very important thing, because when you say 1 is the half of 2, yes, what makes this certain, what makes its opposite impossible, or what makes its contradiction, if we bring something that contradicts 1 being the half of 2, what makes this impossible? So it has to be 1 is the half of 2. What makes it impossible is logic in this case, and by logic I do not mean common sense, I mean the intellect finds it impossible. What does it mean that the intellect finds it impossible? That the intellect cannot conceptualize anything but 1 being the half of 2. Try your best, you will never be able to do it, unless you are a sophist who claims that you've done it. And we will talk about sophists extensively. We will talk about them inshallah. Right. And I do not want to sound like Al-Qadi Abi Ya'la in some of his versions, some of the versions of Al-Qadi Abi Ya'la or other scholars of the Hanbali madhab. Whenever they find that there has been or there have been 2 or more narrations from Ahmad, they try to explain them in a way that makes the narration from Ahmad just one narration, and they keep explaining both narrations by considering that maybe he said this in a state and the other one in a different state, but he in general means one thing, and we try to explain them to give you one philosophy that explains everything, one theory that explains all his positions. So in other words, we are not saying that he had more than one opinion in different times and one opinion contradicts the other and we have to consider one of these opinions. Unlike this, we say no, it has always been one opinion, but these are different perspectives. I do not want to sound like a person who would do something like this, although it has already been done in the history of Al-Hanabila, because I do not have the same authority of people who did this, and I do not belong to their ages or to their generations. I do not belong to the generation of Al-Mutaqaddimin or so, where a person could have had the liberty to do something like this sometimes. And instead of saying this, instead of doing this, I would say there is always a possibility, even though I do not necessarily favor it, because I lack the tools to favor it in the first place. So far I lack the tools to favor it in the first place, but there is a possibility that Ahmad radiallahu anhu, when they when they received from him more than one position, there is a possibility that he talked about this matter from different perspectives, and that it was actually one position, not two positions. He was talking about something that does not accept التفاوت. There are no levels in logical certainty, or even if Ahmad bin Hanbal didn't call it logical certainty, this certain fact that one is the half of two, Ahmad bin Hanbal radiallahu anhu realized that this is something that your intellect cannot your intellect does not have the ability to conceptualize the opposite, or the contradiction, yes, or the contradictory, what contradicts this, in other words, what contradicts one being the half of two. فhe knew radiallahu anhu that the intellect is incapable of such conceptualization. So this is you do not even realize it, you do not see it, you do not picture it in your head. But if you say white crow, you can picture it, but it does not exist outside. This is the difference that we are talking about here. For when they talk about the riwayatain in this case, I think there is a possibility of explaining them in this manner. Now let's continue reading. After reading what Ibn Qadi al-Jabal radiallahu anhu said, I got to learn that Ibn Qadi al-Jabal, a little bit of a tarweeh here, I got to learn that Ibn Qadi al-Jabal used to teach in al-Madrasa al-Hanbaliya. I told you this before, I believe, in al-Madrasa al-Hanbaliya here in Cairo, in Masjid al-Sultan Hassan. To be honest, I have this dream to teach in one of the ancient madaris of al-Hanbali, to teach, to properly teach, not to just sit there and give something, no, to properly teach. And to be honest, I do not have this dream of teaching in Al-Azhar. Great honor and everything, but I do not think I am the person who would be able to teach in Al-Azhar, and by this I mean that I wouldn't really. I do not think it's possible for me to accept this position. طبعا someone might say it will never be offered. Yes, yeah, fine, it's true. It might not be offered, it might never be offered. However, I do not think that even when it's offered, I do not think that it will be possible for me to accept something like this, unless things really change. Yeah, great honor and everything, I acknowledge it's a great honor to teach in Al-Azhar, but there are other aspects. However, it's my dream, and in my opinion it's a greater honor to teach in one of the madaris of Al-Hanbaliya. Yeah, this was a little bit of tarweeh for those who might miss the episodes of tarweeh that we give in the live durus. So yeah, here you are. You have not been deprived of this great practice. Anyway, قال ووقعت هذه المسألة بين الشيخ عز الدين بن عبد السلام وبين الخونجي، فنفى ابن عبد السلام التفاوت وأثبته الخونجي. Al-Khunaji was a Shafi'i scholar, if I remember correctly. Well, Izz ibn Abd Salam, another Shafi'i scholar, and they had this, يعني this debate or research. Yes. And Al-Izz ibn Abd al-Salam had this position that it's not possible for something, for al-yaqeen to be mutafawit, or for al-ilm, for certainty to be mutafawit, to be of different levels, or to have different levels. Yes. So it cannot have like degrees. Yeah. قال ابن قاضي الجبل: قلت كيف ينفي التفاوت مع قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم ليس المخبر كالمعاين. The hadith is ليس الخبر كالمعاينة. But if I have to read it the same way Shaykh يعني interpreted it in his narration, so this is رواية بالمعنى يعني. He's narrating the meaning. ليس المخبر كالمعاين, يعني the one to whom something has been reported is not like the one who witnessed it, who witnessed the incident. The wording of the hadith, the phrase that you find in the books of the hadith, ليس الخبر كالمعاينة. A report is not like witnessing. Yes, which is the same meaning. Actually, the interpretation of a Shaykh is very good in this case. For how do you deny that there is tafawut in certainty and we have this report? طبعا this is the perspective of a person who doesn't care about what Aristotelian logicians establish in their disciplines. يعني no one can go and say, yeah, you do not respect terminology. Yeah, he does not respect terminology because he does not take into consideration the discipline. Unfortunately, in books of Usul al-Fiqh, you'll find some chapters in which they take these logical disciplines into consideration, other chapters no. But here it's evident. It's clear. Yeah. Then he says, وَكَمَا يُفَرَّقُ بَيْنَ عِلْمِ الْيَقِينِ وَعَيْنِ الْيَقِينِ. You know how Sufiya and even in Tafsir al-Quran they differentiate between ilm al-yaqeen and the higher degree of certainty, ayn al-yaqeen. And sometimes they even mention a higher degree of certainty. يعني it depends on how you explain them. عين اليقين وحق اليقين وعلم اليقين. You see? So different levels of certainty. So something is more certain than another thing. ثم هنا أمر. He says, then here we have an issue. Another issue. أمر آخر. وهو أن من فسر الرؤية في الآخرة بزيادة العلم وكذلك الكلام كيف يمكنه نفي التفاوت. انتهى. For speculative theology scholars who interpret الرؤية on the day of judgment, when we say that we see Allah, they interpret الرؤية on the day of judgment as an increase in knowledge. العلم, والعلم means certainty. On the day of judgment, in the grave you are certain, خلاص. But there are levels of certainty though. Now everyone is certain. That's why we call people in their graves مؤمنين. السلام عليكم دار قوم مؤمنين. خلاص. Everyone is mu'min after death, but some iman does not benefit the mu'min. Yani there is some iman that does not benefit because it's too late. Yes? But everyone becomes mu'min in the grave or after death, if you will. طيب, on the day of judgment, we are certain. We are certain. What is الرؤية then? They explain الرؤية, or they interpret الرؤية as more knowledge, more certainty. Same thing when we talk about الكلام. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يتكلم on the day of judgment بصوت that everyone can hear. What is this? They say, yeah, more certainty. Like more evidence that supports the certainty. So the certainty increases then. If it can increase and decrease, then it's متفاوت. Apparently, there is a type of certainties, or a type of certainty that cannot be like topped, that cannot be خلاص, this is the end, this is the ultimate thing. And that's why what الفقهاء call certainty is called ظن by logicians. And if these logicians are flexible, they might be able to call it غلبة الظن, when the ظن is favored, when the ظن is strong, or strong ظن, when there is a high probability. It's not just a probability, a high probability, a favored probability. نعم. انتهى. طيب. I think we need to stop here, to leave the topic here, and then next time we will be discussing the next part. And the next part will probably require us to bring to our attention Al-Shaykh Al-Allama Najm al-Din al-Tufi in his Sharh Mukhtasar al-Rawda. So we'll start having Sharh Mukhtasar al-Rawda with us in some of the discussions that we will have, inshallah. And all what we need is probably the let me see. All what we need is, I think, the first volume, if I'm not mistaken, the first volume of Sharh Mukhtasar al-Rawda. Wallahu ta'ala أعلى وأعلم. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.